Hello and welcome to the Animation Communication podcast, your source for discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join your host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, and Lauren Kizich, the Abbey Roadie, for today's discussion. If you like what you hear, please remember to support by giving a like, a follow, as well as subscribing to the main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube. Spread the word and keep being a part of a great community. This episode is appropriate for all ages.
What's the sitch on this February week of things and stuff? I am your regular host person, Lady KP. I love Impossible a lot. Thanks again for coming. Or if you're new, welcome to my podcast. My as in like not mine, but you know what I mean.
The
Hi.
royal my.
Yeah. I'm very tired. I'm recording this at midnight my time, so I'm just like, I was sleeping as I like sleep. Anyway,
it's zombie mode.
It's always zombie mode, KP. Anyway, so Lauren, how are you doing this week?
Doing all right. We got a couple headlines to kick us off. I'm not going to try to be too long on them, but they're good headlines, or at least good as in eventful. So, what I could start with is, I'll get the bad news out of the way first. Everybody's been talking about it. Unfortunately, Blue Sky Studios, the same animation company that made the Ice Age franchise, the Rio movies, Horton Hears a Who, Spies in Disguise. I mean, that's just a small sample of their movies. Unfortunately, they shut their doors this week. Disney technically shut them down because they're under the Fox umbrella that was from their, the merger recently. And I guess they're trying to consolidate all of their animation into more in-house stuff in California. But at the same time, it's really heartbreaking because it was a studio that had about, I want to say 450 people there, and it was based in Connecticut. It was one of those few East Coast animation studios that kind of kept the balance between the West and East Coasts for entertainment and animation opportunities. So it was just really unfortunate to see that. And as far as I know, they're trying to move jobs around and trying to get as many people as they can from Blue Sky over to Disney to work on the stuff there. But that also meant, because Blue Sky was also working on a film at the same time as this, Moana, which was based on, I believe, a graphic novel by Noelle Stevenson. And they were working on that at the time, and it was supposed to be, I guess you could say, another one of those groundbreaking, Blue Sky was actually known for a lot of animation experimentation. They were doing a lot of breaking the mold, so to speak, in terms of animation techniques. It's because of their work on the Peanuts movie, because they did the Peanuts movie back in 2015, that we were able to have also other movies like Spider-Verse, where they broke the mold of how to do animation and make it look 2D into 3D. You also had them doing the rubber hose animation in Horton Hears a Who, and later Sony would also adapt that same kind of animation into Hotel Transylvania. So there was a lot of stuff that they did early on, and we're trying to be they were a pioneer company. So it's really, really, really frustrating and just really heartbreaking, especially when the Rio movies were a huge inspiration for me. I drew nothing but birds after watching the first Rio movie, and I can say that obsession with the birds and drawing the birds got me my first job out of college. So there's that. But yeah, it's hard. It's just, I just really hope all the best for everybody that was affected by this change.
Yeah.
Really hoping the best for everybody involved.
Yeah, I'm not at all particularly surprised, words, because Blue Sky was a little bit of a stretch to fit under the Disney umbrella as it was anyway. Like the Spies in Disguise was pretty good. I didn't get around to seeing it, but I heard good things. I've never really been a fan of the Ice Age movies, and I kind of wish they stopped they made like 5, something like that.
Yeah, 5. Yes, 5 Ice Ages.
Yeah, I never liked the first one, and then I was like, okay, I don't need any more ice. Like, Ray Morano Mammoth is only so funny, and Scrat is like, that's just basically Warner Brothers shorts repackaged for the most part. But
we stand Scrat in this house.
Yeah, Rio was a pretty movie. I feel bad that it was about the blue macaws, but the blue macaws still ended up becoming extinct or whatever.
The Spix macaw. That was and yeah, well, at least as far as we know, that their species is extinct. As far as we know, we've had species come out of extinction before, so it may be possible. But because there's still a lot of rainforest out there that hasn't been explored, so
or burned down, apparently.
Yeah, keep saving the rainforest, guys. I hate to sound like the old slogans, but now more than ever,
save the rainforest, save the whales.
Literally, I can't stress it enough that there was a song I remember as a kid that had the line, the rainforest is the lungs of the earth. And not even kidding, it produces the most oxygen for our planet. So please, be kind to it.
Go plant a tree. Go plant a tree.
Go plant many trees.
He said so. That's something you can do that's still socially distancing, because you can't get COVID from trees that we know of.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, the other news is what I was going to say, which is actually good news. Yay.
Yes.
Yay. So Clone High got picked up for 2 seasons from HBO Max. Yeah. Yeah. Like, my body's been ready for this since, I was a person in high school, because, the original Clone High came out, the early 2000s. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Lauren?
Oh, yeah, no. I was going to say it's another good thing that it's coming to HBO Max, which is an already established service, and a lot of people really love HBO Max. So that's a really good thing. I know a lot of people were actually afraid it might go to something like Paramount Plus, which not as many people are looking forward to, as far as I can gauge. So
I don't want any more iCarly. I'm good, guys.
And so it's really good to see it going to HBO Max, which I'm in the group that says I love HBO Max. It's become one of my favorite services to use. And literally, I could live off of the Ghibli films alone in there. They pretty much have all of them.
I'm gonna make a note,
except for Castle of Cagliostro, which wasn't technically Ghibli, but it was the movie that started Ghibli anyway.
I'm gonna make a note to get your login information. So make a mental note, because I just we have Disney Plus right now and Netflix, and I say that's it, but that's still a good chunk, and YouTube TVs, because my parents like to watch the news. So. And the only reason I have the other 2 is because my brother is employed right now, and my other brother really likes Star Wars, and he was just like, okay, I guess I'll keep it. What is it, like $5? And I'm like, yay, because it's the internet. If you want to watch things, you can probably find a way to watch things. It's just the convenience of watching it, not on your laptop, which is nice. Anyway, so yeah, they announced that Clone High was rebooted probably a year ago, something like that, 9 months ago, but there was not a lot of understanding where it was going to be, if it's a reboot itself, or they are starting where it left off. I think it's probably going to be a mix of the 2, realistically. I don't think Lord and Miller are just going to drop that storyline, but at the same time, I don't think they want to isolate people who are just like, I am here for JFK memes and only JFK memes. So, which,
nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys.
My personal favorite Clone High meme is, did you see the pool? They flipped the bee, so I won't say the bad word. age appropriate
We're
episode.
we're keeping this age appropriate.
Yeah, but and then they used it for the elections. It's like, did you see what they did to Georgia? They flipped it. So I was very excited about that. So Scudworth is my favorite, and we will most likely be covering it on the main channel when it drops, but it will take like 500 years as animation takes time. So yeah, those are the headlines right now because we have a long episode. But please enjoy the main episode of the show and like and comment, subscribe, all the places, and we love you. As long as you're not white supremacists, please.
And here we go.
Okay, so our guest today is Brian Hall. He has a nice name that I can pronounce easily. So Brian, before we get into the regular interview part of the stuff, why don't you just generally tell the people who you are, what you do, the general gist.
Hey y'all, I'm Brian Hall. I am a YouTuber and voice actor. So I do stuff there.
Short and sweet.
Did you want more description than that?
Up to you. I mean,
I'm like, that's a pretty good encapsulation because I'm like, everything falls under the YouTuber umbrella. And it's funny because I followed your work for years now. I know you've done prank videos, you've done impression videos, going to the Disney parks and doing impressions for characters and seeing their reactions to it, and then just doing song covers. I mean, you're a jack of all vocal trades.
Well, I try. I try
yeah,
to be.
If you guys want some just general non-political things that you can just tune out and have fun with, then you can watch Brian's stuff. It's fun. Okay, Lauren, do you want to lead the interview as you usually do, and then I can jump in and say things, or do you have a preference?
Yeah, sure. I guess it's a pretty easy place to start. Superhero origins. Where did you get your start? How did you find you had this? Did you find it had like an innate ability to do vocal impressions, or how did you discover your own personal talent?
Well, I'd always played around with voices and stuff like that just because I thought it was fun, and honestly, I thought it was totally normal and that everyone did this. Quickly found out that was not the case. But I remember when I did my first impression, and I was like, I did it. I actually got it. I was watching an episode of Full House. I think I was 13. I was watching Full House. And of course, there's Joey Gladstone, who does all the voices all the time. And there was one episode, I think it was whenever Comet the dog was having puppies. And he ran in and he was just like, Jesse, you won't believe what just happened. And he's like, what, did she have the puppies? No, she piped up and said, where's my water? Like Scooby-Doo. And I don't know what possessed me to be like, I bet I could do that. So I tried. Raggy, I'm scared. And yeah, found out then I could do Scooby-Doo. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Not thinking anything of it at the time other than, oh, that was fun. And then the next day I went to school and tried it out on my friends. Just like I said, I thought this was normal. I thought everyone did voices. And I was like, hey, this is me, part of the group. I can do impressions too. Even though I'd never heard any of them do impressions. I still to this day don't know where I got that idea. And so I did Scooby-Doo, and they turned around and stared at me like they just saw a ghost. They're like, what just came out of your mouth? And since then, the rest was history. I kind of got a reputation around the school for being that voice guy who does all the cartoon voices. And yeah, it was a party trick that I just did for fun, and now it's my job. So...
Did you end up getting pulled into, how, for every group assignment, there's always, there's the art kid, where I was the art kid, that people were like, hey, can you do this thing? Were there ever any projects in school that we need somebody to do voices? Hey, Brian, can you do the voices?
Oh, absolutely. It happened all the time. My favorite one was we were in high school, and we were in, I think it was world history, and my teacher didn't know about my voice yet. And he went through and he wanted to cast a play of the French Revolution. So, not a full-on play, but just to do in class to get everyone to understand what happened and everything. So he cast me as some dude named Jacques. Not even a real figure in the French Revolution, just like you are a French person named Jacques. So when you call me a French person named Jacques, you're gonna get the full-on French voice treatment. So like, and I improv and everything, and it was supposed to be something like, I am so mad at the tyranny going on in our country. It's almost like we are in America, those filthy Americans. It was totally stereotypical and totally dumb, but the whole class was laughing, and he freaked out and was just like, what else can you do? Can you do more? And the rest of the class, we didn't even talk about world history anymore. It just turned into, let's do a bunch of impressions, which everyone later was really happy with me because we were supposed to have a pop quiz, and he forgot.
Brian Hull saves the class.
Yes.
Saved by the Brian.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and then I mean, at some point, when you started your YouTube channel, what inspired you to start a YouTube channel to do to basically share your vocal talents with the world?
Well, really, the main reason I started it was so that I could actually get some sleep. And I know that sounds weird, but I would start having my friends call me at all hours of the night because they had a friend spending the night or something like that, and they told them about the dude who does the cartoon voices. So they'd call me at like, midnight, 1 a.m, like, will you do Scooby-Doo? And I'm sitting there going, I've been asleep for like 8 hours. I'm not a night owl by any means. I'm exhausted. No. So I just made a channel and did some voices, and I'm like, okay, send your friends there. Quit calling me. When the sun goes down, do not talk to me. So that's how it started.
You just started stockpiling all of this audio for them just to like whip out like a B-roll to have ready.
Pretty much. And that just kind of became a place where I stored videos because I made stuff for friends, family, school projects, my church events, whatever it was. And somebody needed a video. I was usually the dude who did it because I was the only one who knew how to use any editing software at all.
That's a mood.
So, yeah. And at the time, this is back before flash drives could actually hold gigs and gigs and gigs of information. Back in the day, you're lucky if they held like 5 megabytes, right? Mm. And so,
what year was this in?
This was, I think, 2009.
Oh, okay.
Was when I started.
I was going to guesstimate that.
Yeah, so like 2009, early 2010s, and it was a lot more economic just to upload it to my YouTube channel and share a link than it was to try to put everything on a flash drive and give it to somebody, because it was nuts, because each video was like, 2 or 3 gigs? And it's just like, it couldn't handle it. So yeah, it was just a storage place for letting me sleep and just videos that I needed to do for other stuff. It was never really meant to be seen by the world.
But then somehow word got out.
What about that?
Yeah, that happened. That happened when I made a video that was just meant to be a way to get me a gift card. I just wanted to win a gift card. There was this online contest. It's like, sing your own cover of Let It Go. You can win $100 gift card to the Disney store. And I was a flat broke college student. So I'm like, that sounds awesome. So I go and make a version of Let It Go. And they say in the description of it, the more creative you make it, the more likely you are to win. So I was like, well, what if Disney characters sang Let It Go? Just seemed like a no-brainer in my head, so I went and recorded it. I bribed my roommate, who was a recording major, with brownies to come and record for free so that he could mix me and do all that and make me sound good. And then I submitted it to the contest. Turns out I missed the deadline, but the video took off and I got a career instead, so I ain't mad.
That's like at least more than 10 gift cards.
At least.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's the power of the internet for you. Nowadays, it's like, especially when it's also kind of a right place, right time. And even in some instances where you're kind of just like, hey, I just wanted a gift card. I didn't want the fame, but cool.
Yeah, I'm just
this
like,
works.
I have a career now, so I'm not going to be upset.
Yeah. And I was actually going to ask, because I as far as I know, you were originally from Texas, correct?
Yeah.
And you moved to California. When was that? Around the time that you had your YouTube channel, or was that long before?
No, that happened after the Let It Go video and everything. I had no intention of moving to California before that. I wouldn't have minded it, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that was more like one of those things where it's like, oh, that's for the good voice actors. I'm just a dork who does stuff at home. I'm not good enough to be in movies and TV shows and stuff. So why would I even go over there? Until that happened, and then agents started calling, and they're like, why aren't you doing this professionally? I'm like, I don't know. So
Don't you want money?
yeah, they were just like, how do you think you're not good enough? I'm like, I don't know. I just did this for fun. I didn't expect anything to come of it. And lo and behold, like, they signed me and got out here, and I've been working towards that ever since.
That's fantastic. I've loved watching your videos, and especially when when I first saw your channel, it was actually through the pranks when you would do the drive-through pranks, and 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 then I think after that came the Let It Go video, at least to my knowledge.
You saw the other stuff before Let It Go? This is like the first podcast I've been on where somebody could say that.
Lauren is an OG. Like, she knows all this internet stuff that I just don't remember. So she comes in handy.
I live here, you know.
Oh, no, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I think it was just because I think other people were talking about, like, hey, have you seen this guy? He does these voices. He does these, like, pranks in the drive-thru. I'm like, wait, I love drive-thru pranks. And he's like, okay, but he does it as Winnie the Pooh. I'm like, okay, now I really have to see this.
Like, sign me up.
and sure enough, I'm like,
it's always fun to do a drive-thrus.
It's so perfect. It's I'm like, I just went, okay, for a split second there, I kind of spazzed. But anyway, that was actually how I found your channel. And then BuzzFeed and everything, and started posting about the Let It Go video. I'm like, wait a minute, is this the same guy that I saw with the drive-through videos? And but yeah, it was I'm still in awe of your talent and seeing you freaking skyrocket over the years. And I guess you've landed some industry jobs. Like, what were some of your first voiceover jobs now that you've reached fame?
Well, some of the ones I've done, I was on an episode of Tangled in 2019.
Oh, nice. Oh,
yeah.
I remember hearing about that, and then I forgot about it. So that's funny.
It's also relevant because we had Chris Onnenberg on as one of our early podcast guests.
Oh my gosh, he's awesome.
He's really cool.
Oh yeah. No, I was in one episode. It was No Time Like the Past, I think it was called, in season 3. They there's some magic thing that Rapunzel messes with, and they go back in time, but everyone sees and hears Rapunzel and Pascal as the Stabbington brothers, as teenagers. So apparently Ron Perlman didn't want to try to fake a teenage sounding voice, so I just did an impression of him slightly younger, and so then I got to be the Stabbington bros.
Nice.
So yeah, that was fun, especially because since I was technically being Rapunzel in their body, Mandy Moore did all the dialogue for my parts that she was
in. Nice.
And so I had to hear her voice and then match her intonations with their voice. So that was a bit of a challenge. So it's like I'm listening to her as I'm talking in this deep, gruff voice, but I'm saying stuff that's all cute and adorable, you know. It was a fun experiment to do. And then I was in a Disney game. There was like an educational game where it's like Mickey and Friends teach you how to draw. It's with Osmo, and I was the narrator for that. So I got to put on my great Disney Channel voice. Hi, boys and girls, it's time to draw with Mickey and Friends. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's so cool. No, you have, it goes without saying that you have a fantastic voice, but you have a really good, like announcer, like a radio voice. So that's so cool to hear you just like switch into it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then I've done a bunch of work with Air Bud. They have a series that they did called Pup Star, and I've been in every Pup Star film, which is always fun.
Nice.
I got to be the John Ratzenberger for Pup Star, even though he was technically there too.
I mean, that's a badge of honor to wear, to even consider yourself like the John Ratzenberger, because I mean, hey, good luck charm, and I mean, it seems like good luck follows. So
did people ever find where he was in Seoul yet? Like I haven't followed that up yet.
I heard him. I did.
Where'd you
manage to
hear
find
him? I couldn't find him either.
So he's in flashback. It's basically when they're looking at his life in the little vignettes, and early on in the film when he's with 22. Yeah. There's a background voice where, they're saying, sorry, we can't take you. Sorry, we can't take you. And he's like another voice that like rejects him or something like that. I remember hearing it. It's almost you almost miss it. But if you're listening for it, you can hear it and you're like, okay, it's John Ratzenberger trying not to sound like John Ratzenberger, but I could tell it's him.
They've been really trying to hide him lately. Like, before it was just like, oh, he had a little line, but you can still obviously tell it's him. But like in Finding Dory, they pitched him up like 8 octaves. So if you didn't read the credits, you wouldn't ever tell.
So it's the hidden John Ratzenberger.
I know, it's like, quit hiding him. I love his voice.
Can they make like a Where's Waldo version of all the Disney Pixar stuff, and his character is always the Waldo in the pictures? Like, I think that would be fun.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
And Alan Tudyk has become the Disney centric version of that. Yeah, because pretty much once Frozen came out, it was like after that he was kind of in everything.
Oh, he was even in Wreck-It Ralph before that.
That's true. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I stand corrected. Yeah, King Candy was first. And then he came as the Duke of Wesselton, and then he was Duke Weaselton, and then
and then he was Alistair Cray. Yeah, Alistair Cray. I can never remember.
And he was.
Go ahead, guys.
That was Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
And then there was K2 Urso, right?
And Rogue One, K2SO.
Rogue One, yes.
Yeah.
This is a little bit off topic, but Harley Quinn's really good. Speaking of him, he plays Joker.
Oh, yeah. That's right. He does a fantastic Joker. That's right, because he's in the adult Harley Quinn series.
Yeah,
right.
The adult Harley Quinn is great. Yeah, they're making season 3 now for HBO Max, and I'm excited.
I mean, of what I've seen of it, it's been fantastic. I've yet to watch like full episodes of it, but what I have seen of it, it looks so good that and it's so funny too. On top of that, I have to check it out.
Yeah, best thing I think out of DC since BTAS. So
yeah, when you first said that, I forgot there was the TV show, and I thought you meant either Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey, and I was like, wait, what? I thought that was Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. Did I miss something?
Yeah, they had Jared Leto's face and then they dubbed him over with Alan Tudyk.
They poorly tracked it,
Oh my gosh, did a deep
Honestly,
fake?
I'd like to see that actually. Mostly because Jared Leto is kind of off having a cult on an island somewhere with hundreds of women. That's a thing. So
I believe it.
The things you learn on the podcast, I guess.
Did you not know about the Jared Leto cult?
I don't know all the things learned.
Wait, is that real?
It is real. And he I guess I can't remember if it's like he bought an island or something like, but no, he's like actually out there, and there's people who I think there's like you have to pay $2,000 to be a part of his cult.
Nah.
Normal stuff.
I got a weird chill down my spine hearing that.
And that's where it's like, in conclusion, Alan Tudyk is the better Joker. Anyway.
There you go. I haven't even heard his Joker, but he's the better Joker.
It's because he has very much the Mark Hamill flair to him, but he's still uniquely his own Joker. So I think it's Hamill with more swearing.
Yeah, if you want to book Mark, but if Mark's too identifiable, then people book Alan, from what I could tell, for Joker.
Oh.
And I don't know if Mark does adult Joker either, so
I'm sure he wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah. Hypotheticals.
I thought he did them in the Arkham games. I've never played
Oh,
the
yeah,
Arkham
yeah,
games.
you're right.
I'm pretty sure.
You're right.
Yeah, I thought
I
they
was
were a
pretty sure
little
he
more.
did that.
I thought they were more adult than like the '90s cartoon.
Yeah, I think it's because maybe the Joker in Harley Quinn is more crass, but that may be it. It's just like, but yeah. But anyway, sorry,
getting
that
off
was
topic,
a tangent. We're it's still relevant to voices, I promise.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, and then going back to what he was in Disney, he was Hey Hey in Moana.
That is true. Yeah, I just remembered the role of him clucking into a microphone and then turning and going, "I went to Juilliard."
Well, he did. He also got a speaking role in that movie. He was the old dude cooking up the stuff at wanting to cook Hey Hey. So he was talking about cooking himself too.
I feel like that's a pun for something, you know. Don't think about it too much, I guess.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Look at that chick. It's so dumb talking about himself.
I'm curious about that chicken eating the rock.
It's good for digestion.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Dinosaurs, there's some like apatosaurs and stuff. They ate rocks to help with digestion. So, I mean, just Hey Hey's just following his ancestors' footsteps.
And hey, ostriches do it today. So it's still a thing.
That's true. The modern day dinosaurs.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's getting in touch with his roots, you know?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Dinosaurs don't exist. Yeah, they do. They're just, they're just a lot more. They're either flying or they're eating bugs on the ground right now. So.
Yep, pretty much.
But yeah, I was going to say back to kind of back on to the more vocal training kind of stuff. Do you usually like vocal warm-ups? How do you get into the zone when you try to get into maybe certain characters that you have to do?
Well, it really depends on what character that I'm going to do. I do general warm-ups basically every day just to kind of get my voice warmed up and everything. But depending on, how high the character needs to go, I might really practice some of the higher vocals. Or like with Donald, I have to really massage my cheeks a lot because Donald's got so much stuff going on with the cheeks and like air pockets, and I really need them rubbery. And same thing with like Mr. Smee or like the White Rabbit, any of that kind of voice, because I literally have to pull my cheek to get the right space in there to get that special sound, for that. So that's one of the reasons I'm glad I have a beard. I have a little handle. Grab and do that. But yeah, it's a lot of that, and there's lots that I have to do to keep my voice healthy, because there's a lot of voice actors out there who don't know about good vocal health, and they get vocal nodules, and they can really mess it up because your vocal folds are really small, and it doesn't take much to like damage them forever. So you got to do a lot of self-care on the vocal cords and everything.
What are some of the self-care things that you do?
Well, first of all, if there's any future voice actors listening, if you're doing a voice and it hurts your throat, you're doing it wrong. I don't care how good it sounds, you're doing it wrong. There's lots of support from the diaphragm that takes a lot of the stress off of the actual vocal folds so that it doesn't hurt nearly as much or at all. I always have cough drops on hand to like help soothe and relieve and all that jazz. I have to do allergy medications almost daily just to make sure one bad night of postnasal drip and I'm out of work for 2 weeks. So I'm like, I don't mess around with allergies.
I feel you on the postnasal drip. It's it's awful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and at least once a year I get like a really bad sinus infection, and that devastates work for a while, and I'm like, no, don't do this to me. Yeah, and then there's throat coat tea. That's been a savior many, many times. It's disgusting and it tastes like dirt, but it works. Helps tremendously. And then on top of that, just, guzzling water like there's no tomorrow, basically.
I did not stay hydrated recently, and it wasn't a fun time, so also don't drink too much soda. It's bad.
Yes, absolutely.
2 truths: drink more water and don't drink too much soda.
Amen.
Don't be KP.
Amen.
I'm a bad influence.
But yeah, it was, I was going to say, a lot of my other personal remedies are like like honey and tea and stuff like that, like raw honey,
Yeah,
not
that's a
processed.
great
No, not Pooh Bear honey. Sorry, people, that's processed honey. We're talking raw honey that you
bother.
can get. Yeah. Sorry, Pooh. But yeah, it's I was gonna say, you know, I know kind of like what we talked about before with your content creation. You'd gone out and done, you know, different impression videos, or you worked with other YouTubers and collaborated. How has COVID affected your content creation in any way? Like maybe what changes have occurred within the past year?
Oh, good golly molly, where do I start? No, 2020 was actually a really it was a rough year, but also one where I really kind of got to, you know, sit down and really take stock into what I'm doing, what's most important, how do I want to move forward, and all that jazz. Because for so long, like, I came up with a strategy when I first moved out to California, and I've been executing that strategy the whole time for about 4 to 5 years. And it worked really well, and it kept working really well until right about COVID, it wasn't working so well anymore. And I realized, oh, I'm working off a model that's like 4 or 5 years old. That's probably not smart in an industry like the internet.
Yeah.
So then COVID hit, and at least for me, and I know it did to a lot of other YouTubers too, all of us got hit really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, you know, advertisers were dropping out left and right because, you know, they don't have the money to keep advertisements going if a lot of them could barely keep their doors open and all that. And there was all this other stuff, and I had just released the biggest video I'd ever made, thinking that was going to bring everyone back, that was really going to make things better, and it was going to be the new direction for the channel, and it flopped. It did not perform well. I'd spent more money on this than any other video. I spent more time on it. I'm like, this is the best thing that's ever been on my channel ever, and I can't wait for the world to see it. And no one really cared. Eventually, it got up there and got good views, but right off the bat, it severely underperformed what I wanted it to. And that kind of left me in like that was my best work I've ever done. And apparently no one cares anymore. So I kind of went through a whole, is this really what I need to be doing anymore? Should I be trying other things? Should I be doing all that? And I did. I went through and I tried other things. Like, I'd always wanted to be an animator long before all of this. I was drawing long before I was doing impressions. So I found some online schools and I took some classes and I was planning on going into that. Come to find out, if it's not drawing and it's CG, I want nothing to do with it. No offense to CG animators out there. I love and respect your work. I just don't want to do it.
That's fair. Yeah, Lauren and I are both animators if you need any tips. She's much better than I am, by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, I have a degree in animation. So, I mean, so there's that. And at least nowadays, I'll let my freelance talents of animation. Otherwise, I usually just do character design and concept art and that kind of stuff. And,
good.
And children's book illustration. But every now and then, if I ever have any free time, I'll make my own little GIF of sorts and just be like, I get to stretch my animation muscles again.
Oh yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah, I just got really frustrated by it because, like, you know, we were doing normal poses and stuff, and like, okay, draw these poses, find the ones you like, and then craft one into the computer using this model and all that stuff. And I would get so frustrated because I draw it exactly the way I wanted it, and I loved it, but I could never get the computer to match my brain.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. I feel you.
And maybe over time that would have gotten better, but I just wasn't feeling it, and there was really no assignment where I'm like, oh, this is great, it makes me really want to do this. I'm like, I dread every assignment. I don't think I'm built for this. So I abandoned that. I was looking for other jobs that would take me and all that jazz, and nobody would hire me for anything like that. And right around the time I was thinking like, well, I've been out here for 6 years and trying to become a voice actor, and I've gotten a few things, but nothing that can really be truly sustainable. And, you know, with YouTube being what it is, what is my future? I just don't know. And then out of nowhere, I got a lot of voice work. Nothing I can really talk about at this moment, but
All right, yeah,
you know,
NDAs are
and
a
all
thing.
that.
Yep.
oh yeah, NDAs are definitely a thing, and I'm not going to be in violation of that. So I got all this voice work that I'm like, oh no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, I just had to wait a little while longer, and then right around that time, I was, numbers were getting better on YouTube, and I was getting back into it, and now like, okay, like I have a new vision, I have a new direction, things are getting better, things are looking up. So yeah, 2020 was an adventure.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was an adventure.
I feel you. Yeah, YouTube's kind of been hit or miss because, like, you would think with COVID that it would just be the go-to for people, but I think, it's people are just generally so depressed these days, and there's a lot of, like, outstanding factors with, like, work and if they can afford internet, that it's kind of hard to get a feel on right now. So I'm hoping it's over soon. So, like, our big thing was going to conventions, so, like, that obviously is stopped.
Yeah,
So I definitely
miss
miss that
those.
life.
Yeah, those were great. And then, yeah, like I always go around and do shows during the year, and obviously that didn't happen. Like, one of my favorite ones is I go to Columbus Zoo every year and do a big show over there.
Oh,
And,
nice.
which is weird because I've gone to cons where you expect to get the most amount of, people in nerddoms and fandoms to come and watch something like, a guy who singing like a bunch of cartoon characters, right? But no, it's this zoo in Ohio, the Columbus Zoo. I have gotten
Have you
better.
met Jack Hanna? Because I think that's his zoo.
That is his zoo. That
Yeah.
is his zoo. I have not met him, but I was a massive fan growing up. So every time I go, I'm like, is he here? Is he here? Is he here?
Can you find
And they're
him?
like, no, he's in Africa this week. I'm like, of course he is. But he has signed some books for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I have that. But yeah, no, I was always shocked by this. Like, not last year, but the year before when we could actually do the show, they were like, hey, we want to expand the show at the zoo and make it bigger. So I brought my friend Tony Bancroft, who was the director of like Mulan and was the supervising animator for Pumbaa and The Lion King and everything. So they're like, oh yeah, bring him. So he was doing live drawing demonstrations as I was doing impressions and all that. And I was talking to him about the show beforehand, and he's like, oh, I'm not expecting a huge turnout with this one, Brian. It's just a zoo. It's not like a con or something. And I'm like, you'd be surprised. And lo and behold, we're sitting there at the tables doing all of our stuff. He sells out of everything he brings, and he's like, I should have brought so much more.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, Tony's a good bean. We've had him on the show before. He's like the most
Oh, you
approachable-
have?
Yeah. We had
Oh
him
my gosh.
and
Yeah, funny story. It's like I met him back in my college days, and I want to say our friendship started when he drew a Kronk, and he's like, "Can you draw a Cusco to go with the Kronk?" And that pretty much,
she's like, I was born for this.
Because I'm like, I teased him, I can draw a mean Cusco llama. And he's like, okay, then here's the deal. I'm going to draw this Kronk for you. If you draw the Cusco, can you drop it in like on Photoshop, splice the images together and send it to me? I'm like, yeah, sure. And sure enough, I did it. And it's kind of been that way ever since. Yeah. And so, yeah, we were able to have him on last year, with Scott Sava to talk about animal crackers and stuff. And I was just over the moon, because I absolutely love the movie, but I was just like, I remember, for years seeing that movie develop and just thinking, Tony's working on that. Look at him. He's working on that. And I know him.
It's finally the thing that happened,
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It was
yeah.
That was the one panel I wanted to get into one year. I think it was the first year I ever went to CTN Expo, and I couldn't get into it because it was like, I don't know if it was like one of those like premier tier panels, which they shouldn't have had that point.
Yeah, but, CTN is a whole different podcast.
Yeah, but I just remember it was the only panel I wanted to see that day, and I couldn't get in, and so I'm sitting outside the conference room where they had it, the convention hall or whatever. And I remember I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes as I'm watching the TV screen feed of it. Like,
was this the Moana premiere thing or the 20th anniversary or whatever?
No, this was for the panel for Animal Crackers when they were developing it back in 2015. That was the only panel I wanted to see. So so I was really happy to see the movie last year. But anyway, back to you, Brian. You were saying.
Oh, I was just gonna chime in and go like, I know what you mean about waiting for Animal Crackers, because Tony was one of the first people I met out here, and we actually go to church together, and I'd go over to his studio quite a bit, and we'd talk and hang out and stuff, and he would keep telling me about Animal Crackers and everything, and I'm like, dude, you're the director. You have to have a copy of it. Can I just watch it? I'll sign an NDA. I'll do whatever you want. We'll watch it here in the house so you know I'm not taking anything. I just want to see it. And he's like, no. And I'm like, dang it. All that to say, Tony's an awesome guy, and y'all should go check out his podcast too. I don't want to take away from this podcast, but his is awesome too.
Yeah. He's a good guy. He's super friendly for someone who's so accomplished, to be fair.
Oh yeah, you'd never know talking to him. Like, I remember I first met him, and I'm just like, oh yeah, what'd you do? He's like, oh, I just directed Mulan, created Pumbaa, created Kronk, and I'm like, I almost spit out my food. I'm like, what?
It's funny. I have because KP mentioned it a minute ago, was the 20th anniversary. It was the art show that at Gallery Nucleus in Alhambra, where they did a Mulan art show, and I think both Tom and Tony both put pieces in. I do have Tony's print, and it's signed, and it's framed right above my desk, and I'm staring at it right now.
Nice.
But yeah, it's it's a gorgeous print. And I remember I met Ming-Na Wen at that event too. Was not expecting to meet her there. I kind of knew that she would probably be present for press stuff, and then she would kind of like leave, but she was actually mingling with people, and so I met her, and I couldn't even believe it. But she's really nice too.
She is. Yeah, she definitely is.
Yeah, but then I'm like, and then I see Tony across the room, like, you can't miss him. He's the tallest person in the room. I'm just like, there's Tony. I gotta go say hi.
Tony.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I met Ming-Na Wen. I think it was a convention in Dallas. I was working with this group that, like, every single person they invited to be like one of the guests that you'd come and meet, like all of them are in film, TV, all this stuff, and they brought one YouTuber, which was me. So I'm sitting there like so intimidated. I'm like looking over to my right, and then there's like Ming-Na Wen, and then I look over here, and there's like I can't remember the name of this actor for the life of me, but he did Radagast in The Hobbit, and he was one of the doctors. And then we had like people from Star Wars. Stan Lee was actually there before he passed. And
wow.
Yeah, and then I can't think of his name right now either. Good night. I'm blanking on everyone's names, but Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember
He's
his
Mary
name.
Poppins, yo.
I'm Mary Poppins, yo. Yeah, that guy. Awesome. That was interesting sitting next to him. But Ming-Na Wen was not far from me, so like there was one time I had a break and I went over to her because she didn't have anyone. And I'm just like, hey, so I'm actually friends with Tony. Can we totally like mess with him? So we sent him a video, and I didn't tell her I was gonna do a Mushu impression. So they're going, hey Tony, look who I found! I found Milan. You just got done saving China, and she gave me this look like I wasn't expecting that. Did you do him in the sequel? And I was like, no, but that's a pretty high compliment. Thank you.
Were you the white guy who was Mushu in the sequel?
Yeah, I was the white guy, who pretended to be Eddie Murphy.
Oh Lord, but yeah, like speaking of that, back to the zoo, and I find that like the conventions that are kind of not in the middle of nowhere, but they don't like they're in a metro area, but there's not a lot of things to do in the metro area. People just kind of want to do something, and like comparatively to when there's tons of LA conventions, but they're kind of hit or miss because there's just so much stuff to do in LA versus like if you're in Ohio, or I did I think last year, like a year, like before, like 6 months before COVID or something like that, I did one in New Mexico, and like I asked the Uber driver like on my way to the convention, I was like, so what is there to do in New Mexico? And he's like, well, we have beans, and like you can and the Breaking Bad museum, and I'm like, I don't. like, apparently you can get red beans and green beans, and you call it Christmas beans. And he was telling me about the beans or whatever, the chili. I'm just like, okay, well, this seems sad. So
It really does.
the show was pretty well attended, and I always kind of don't know what I'm going into. So I vend my art during the shows, so it's again hit or miss, and a lot of times people don't even like realize I'm a YouTuber or whatever. They remember, and they're just like, oh, I used to watch your videos like 500 years ago, and I'm like, thanks. I did them. I've been doing them since college, but anyway. So yeah, it's like, basically it's surprising, depending on the conventions, and like a lot of times the ones with just kind of chill vibes will let you get away with the most. Like, yeah. I think I said this at another podcast, but for Phoenix Fan Fusion or whatever, because Comic-Con is trademarked now or something. Anyway, I was gonna host the Little Mermaid panel with I think they had Jodie Benson and like original guy who played Eric, and I was like over the moon, and I just asked. I was like, hey, I saw that you just booked Jodie. Can I host the panel? And they're just like, sure. And I'm like, but then the con got canceled, and then I got really sad. So,
Yeah, see, she's one of my favorite voice actresses, so I would have been freaking out right there with you. Just
Yeah,
like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, Jodie Benson.
Yeah, Ariel's my favorite princess, and
Mine too.
Oh, nice fam.
Woo!
But yeah, I was a big Ariel child when I was little. One time when I was like, I think 3 or 4, I jumped the fence in my Little Mermaid costume in the backyard pool, and I was just swimming around for like an hour. And then my mom was like, "How'd you get in the pool?" And I got a chair. Anyway, so I had Ariel parties and Ariel rooms, and like even now I have an Ariel pillowcase. And I don't know if you see it, like whenever you see it, Brian, for the YouTube version of the podcast, we have like little like trinkets, and in the back there's a Ariel poster. Anyway, we're off topic. Lauren, what's the next question?
Well, I was gonna say, you kind of touched base on it a little bit before the call, but what are some of the necessary / recommended tools or devices that you use and maybe recommend to people? I guess maybe even to people who are starting out, what would you recommend as well?
For YouTube or voice acting or both?
Both, if you want to go
All
into
of the
it.
above.
All right, that works. Yeah, so to start with, on YouTube, you don't need as much as you think. I'd always tell my friends this, where it was like, well, I want to get started, but I don't want to buy like a 3-piece lighting set and a $900 camera and all this other stuff. And I'm like, don't do that. You got a phone, right? Yeah. Is it a decent camera quality? Yeah. Get a tripod for that. Make sure you are in front of a well-lit window. Boom. You got a decent setup. It's not perfect, and eventually you'll need to upgrade, but for just starting, so you don't have to spend money, that's a great way to get started. But eventually, yeah, you do want to upgrade to like a DSLR camera. You don't have to go for the crazy stuff, but that's really helpful. To get a decent sound, get yourself external microphone for your camera. Rode mics are usually the best, and they're not too bad on cost either, and you just pop them right into your camera. Super good. I feel like I'm doing promotions for all this stuff now. Come on, Rode, let's talk. All that jazz. But yeah, and then editing software. When you're just getting started, if you got a Mac, use iMovie. If you got a PC, use Windows Movie Maker. It's not great and it's really limited, but it's good to get you started. A lot of people go Premiere Pro, and it does release a really great product, but I am still a Final Cut man myself. I've tried Premiere, but I can't leave Final Cut. It works so well for me. I will dabble in Premiere Pro every so often because they have effects that I can't get in Final Cut. But a normal video, yeah, no, I'm in Final Cut still. And then for the voice acting world, to get started, you don't need the crazy Neumann TLM 103 or whatever other huge crazy mics are industry standard now. You can always start with a Blue Yeti. I don't recommend them for long term, but if you can't get anything else, then yeah, you can get started with that. Just a USB. You don't have to have an interface. You just plugs right in your computer. It's not great sound, but it's decent enough. I've booked jobs with it, so you can book with a Yeti. You just got to make sure your space is, decent enough sound wise. So it's always good to turn your recording space into like a closet or something like that. You don't want to be doing it in a giant open room with no foam or no cloth to help you out. Yeah. But yeah, eventually you can upgrade to some of the better mics, or if anything, if you can just get one of the cheaper mics that can plug into a cheaper interface and do that, it's not going to be perfect sound, but it'll be better than a USB mic. So you can do that. And then eventually you can work yourself up to right now the Neumann mics are the standard. I have a Neumann right now, and let me tell y'all something. There's a reason it's industry standard. It's awesome. That's not what I'm recording on, so don't let that be a factor. This is a SMB 720. It's good for podcasts, just more like what I call desk work, where I'm just sitting down and I'm not recording for a audition or something. It's great for YouTube and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And how much do the expensive ones usually go for, or the fancy ones?
The Neumanns, depending on what model you get, I think the cheapest is like $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the like I said, they're industry standard for a reason. Like, I'm working right now on a big film project. I can't say which one. But yeah, every time we go in there, it's a nice Neumann microphone. And I'm like, hey, I've got the smaller version of that. So we're basically on the same page. Woohoo! Made me feel good to see that. But yeah, but you can do like the SMB 720 that I mentioned. That one's about, I want to say it was like $400. So much more cost affordable. And that's the sound you're hearing me on. So if you like the way this sounds, you might want to consider an SMB 720.
That's good. And then how do you usually, like you said, to prep a space, how do you usually work in your space? Like how do you soundproof, and what space do you use? At
my last studio space that I worked in, there was this really weird long closet, which I swear was made for voice acting. Like, it had a little door, I could close it off, and I put foam on every inch of that wall. From the ceiling to the sides to even foam like behind the computer and stuff. I soundproofed the dog out of that room, and it was awesome. Right now in my new space, I'm a little more limited. I'm in a more open room than I would like, but also the place I'm working on is still technically under construction, and they're supposed to be putting a door on here soon. We'll see if that happens. So right now I have foam all up over 2 of the walls, and the other 2 don't really have anything on it. And I have a foam shield around my microphone to help. And basically I just try not to get too loud.
Oh, well, I was going to say you sound really good. So, I mean,
oh, thank you.
It's working.
You also set SM720s. I'm going to get so tired of saying that number.
Say it 5 times fast.
Yeah, they're really good at just taking sound that's right here around you. So if you're in an echoey room, it cuts that down a lot. It won't get rid of everything, but it can get rid of a lot for you. Mm-hmm. So that's always helpful.
Yeah, it's like I think, KP, you kind of record in the same way, but I know it's because of your recommendation that I started doing it for myself. I work off of Snowball, and then I put my Snowball into a soundproof box. And so I literally just record into like a little foam lined box that keeps the space tight, so it soundproofs it a little bit more. It's not 100% perfect, but we've had other guests say, "Hey, but you sound really good," and I'm like, "Okay, that's good. Then that's encouraging." Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad sound. I mean, it's not crystal clear like performance ready to go out on a film or anything, but for a podcast it's great. For an audition it would be great. That's really using what you got to your advantage. That's great. That's a good, decent sound right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if all y'all are on a budget and really need something, listen to that. Snowballs are really cheap, and do that. You should make a DIY video on that.
Yeah, it's really easy. I think it's almost like it's funny, when I got the box, I'm like, this is basically almost like a storage box that, like those fold out bins that you get that are they're kind of like fabric bins, and then you just line it with a little pieces of foam, and that's it pretty much. And then you can stick the microphone in. There's a slit in the back, so you can stick any cables through it. So then you can plug those in. And yeah, it's otherwise, I mean, that's literally it. That's my setup. So
There you go. Hey, as long as it works, that's what matters, right?
yeah. KP, that's usually how you record as well, right? I know, again, like
Yeah, I've had. I'm not a voice actor, but I do YouTube videos where we care a lot about the quality. So I just have a Yeti and a sound box and in a little sound box and a pop filter, and that's my setup. So it's not the best setup, but it works, I guess. I don't want to spend $1,000. I don't have that money.
Yeah, and you definitely don't need to do it right now either. Don't do it unless you don't have any other option.
Right.
Or voice acting is your life and you can actually afford it. Then in that case, yeah, definitely do it then. But if you can't, don't kill yourself trying to get that. Like, it's not going to be like you hear from the recording directors, oh, this was not recorded on a Neumann. Oh, I don't even look at this.
I'm glad that as long as it works and the sound quality is up to par, then, basically have at it.
Yeah, my Blue Yeti has now kind of become my travel mic, so if I have to do an audition when I'm on the road, I'll pull that out. Or I even found there's like a really cheap, I want to say like $70 mic that you can plug into your phone from Rode. It's just a little, itty-bitty little condenser mic. And I swear that sound quality is phenomenal, especially for a $70 little phone mic. So I'd kind of quit even taking the Blue Yeti and just plug that up in my phone and just record from there. And yeah.
Wow.
That's really nice.
I almost didn't consider that. Using a phone. Hello, we could do everything with our phones now. Why not?
Yeah, like, it's a little hard for me to edit up my my audio to send off in an audition, so I'll a lot of times record it on my phone, send it to my laptop, which is always with me when I travel, just do some light editing, send it off, and I can record an audition in like 5-10 minutes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And is there any program you record it into on your phone, or how do you usually do it if you were to have to do it?
When you buy a microphone from Rode, like one of those, there's actually a Rode app you can download, and it's no additional cost, I don't think.
Oh, cool.
I don't think it is. Maybe it is. But yeah,
I think
and
they
then
usually
it just
don't come with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just hooks up directly to your Rode. Since it's a Rode mic, it hooks up really easy. You just record on there, and then it's like share that audio via email, and boom, you're good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, everything else is just normal editing.
Yeah. I think there's like I know it's kind of a tangent question to go back to a little bit, but since we were talking about especially when you're so good at different characters, especially when you do different impression stuff, are there any dream roles that you would have in the future or would like to have or could see yourself in?
I'm not really sure. I guess just off the top of my head, at least from like kind of a Broadway point of view, I was actually trained in opera and musical theater, and I have a degree in that. I've always wanted to do the genie or like Pumbaa for the stage show of Lion King or Aladdin.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Especially when I think about Hyperion Genie in particular, that's what I think.
Yes.
Like that was my favorite genie of like the live performances.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'd want to be him more than the one on Broadway. No offense to the Broadway Aladdin. It's a great show. Just the idea that I can just come up every performance and change the jokes.
Exactly.
And quick little tangent. That's why I'm still so sad that show's gone at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And it's not to say the Frozen show is bad. The Frozen show is very good, but once you've seen it once, you've seen it. You don't have to go back and watch it again unless you just really loved it.
Yeah.
And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now, and it's the same every time, and I'm like, all right, I've seen it enough. I don't want to see it again. But that Aladdin show, every time I came, it was different. It was new. I never knew what I was going to get. And I was like, oh, I wish we still had that rewatchability factor.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, we were spoiled with the Hyperion Aladdin, especially when there are actually a lot of aspects that I thought were fantastic that they managed to cram into like a 45 50-minute version of the show, that I was kind of surprised didn't make it into the Broadway version. I'm like, oh, I thought they would do like something bigger and bombastic-y, for like Prince Ali. There were, you think of Hyperion, they're like, oh, they had elephant running down the aisles, they had horses prancing, they had, baton twirlers and all that stuff. I'm like, and they didn't have all of that in the Broadway version. Not to say it's not still a fantastic musical number, but it's just when you're used to that from the Hyperion show, you kind of go, were we spoiled?
Yes, we were. We were absolutely spoiled.
We got a better
Disney spoiled us too. Whenever you have like, now I feel like every Disney Broadway musical is held up to the level of the Lion King Broadway musical, and because that one is just stellar. Because you think, how are you gonna bring a wildebeest stampede onto the stage, and they do it beautifully. And then you see what they do at the Disney parks, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. But then you see a lot of the other Disney shows, and you're like, wait, why can't you live up? Why can't you do that too? Not to say that any of these shows are bad. I've loved every Disney musical I've seen, but it's also just kind of like, but you could have done more.
Exactly. Especially when you had something like an actual flying carpet in the Hyperion show. I'm like, okay,
that's even in Fantasmic too.
Exactly. So that was even a later edition. I'm surprised that it took them that long to do it, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's a whole thing.
But yeah, the genie in the show that was the biggest reason that everybody came back over and over and over to watch, because he was the one thing that changed. Because of the jokes, and it was always because of like, that's the benefit of having a fourth wall breaking, contemporary modern joke making character that was aware of pop culture and stuff, that you could constantly change up the jokes and it would work. Yeah, because the character.
Yeah, because he said he's traveled all over time. This isn't breaking character. It's not breaking the illusion of the world. But if Olaf came out and did that every show, it would make no sense.
Exactly.
Just see him coming out, I love snow and I love winter, and talk about that winter snowstorm up in the other half of the country, am I right? That just feels weird.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone just stops and goes, Olaf, this wasn't your place. This wasn't your place to
sit down, Olaf.
Sit down. Yeah. I think that's what people were anticipating, was that Olaf was supposed to be the new genie, well, at least in terms of speaking of the show at Hyperion. But he didn't end up being that. It was kind of just the show was meant to be that, the show. What I did like was when they, it was how they wove in the parents. That's how when they wove in, especially at the end. That's what I've seen is I think it was, when they were singing Love is an Open Door, which, again, kind of ironic you're closing on basically a villain song, but okay. I think the one redeeming part of that was, again, it was the parents being there to help sing in it. And I'm just like, dude, you don't have to make me cry right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of great stuff about that show, and like I love what they did with like the background screens and how it incorporates into the show, and a lot of the prop works and the choreography. And have you guys watched the bloopers of that show on YouTube? That's a lot of fun too.
I think I've seen like a couple, like maybe wardrobe malfunctions, but I don't think I've seen them all.
My favorite one is there's one Olaf is about to sing In Summer, but the music never cues. So, it's supposed to go like, really? I guess you don't have much experience with heat. Nope. And then the music comes in. So he says a note, but there's no music. He just kind of sits there. Nope. None at all. What's a palm tree? And he just kind of keeps riffing, and then like Sven tries to eat his nose, and they're just kind of like biding time right now. I'm like, I wish I was in the theater for this one. I would have forgiven a lot of things for that.
That's magical. I think that's, again, the magic of a live show is that anything can happen. And it's somehow, it makes it even more special when something like that happens and you're there to see it, because no two shows are going to be exactly the same because if there's a mishap like that, I mean, it's not guaranteed to happen again, especially in the way that happened.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, dadgum. This is making me so nostalgic for all these live shows that we haven't had in so long now.
I know. I remember I was in New York and I did see Beetlejuice, and it was only a few months before COVID hit. So every day after COVID hit and in the middle of shutdown, I kept thinking to myself, just like, God, my timing couldn't have been more perfect to have just caught that show, especially when they were supposed to close in June of 2020.
Oh, man.
And they had to close in early March. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had tickets for Hamilton during all of this. Because it was coming to the Pantages, and I was like,
yeah,
I'm finally going to get to see it. This was before it was on Disney+. And then just, nope.
So did
and
I. We had to like reschedule the tickets like 3 or 4 times because
yes,
because then they're like,
they
oh,
kept
we can't do that. We can't do that.
We're gonna do it in the fall. Wait, no, we're not. So eventually, I just had to like say, okay, forget it. I'm not rescheduling anymore. Just give me my money back. I'm done.
Oh.
Especially now that it's on Disney+. I'm like, I just wanted to see the show at least once. I didn't care if it was on video or in person, but now that I've fallen in love with it, I'm like, okay, I will go watch it in person now. Because until Disney+, I'd never heard the soundtrack all the way through or really understood the show. Because I have this thing with musicals. I can't listen to a musical soundtrack that I haven't seen. Because I don't understand what's going on in the story otherwise, and that's my favorite part. So I'm like, I heard a song
Hamilton
or two.
is nothing but that.
Right.
You listen to the whole soundtrack, that's the show.
Right, and that's what everyone was telling me. And I heard the opening song, obviously, because that's a crazy, crazy awesome song. But the fact was, because I couldn't see any faces, I couldn't match a voice to the face. So I'm sitting here going, so this person singing, is that this character? I don't know. Is that character? I don't know. I need a face.
I need a name with a face.
Yeah. And it wasn't just Hamilton. That's every musical, no matter how unique their voice is. I'm always like, wait, who's that voice belong to again?
Yeah.
I'm a visual guy. I need to see the voice I need to see the face that's coming out with this voice.
Yeah, it's especially like if you listen to the Beetlejuice musical soundtrack and then you realize there's a jump between a song called Creepy Old Guy and then to the ending song is Jump in the Line. And and the song Creepy Old Guy, it's basically implying like this is supposed to be when, as according to the movie story, is when Beetlejuice tries to get married to Lydia. And and it ends, the song ends and then it goes right into basically the final song of the show, which is the closing number. And so people who hadn't seen the show or actually were reacting to the album without having seen the show, and they're like, what happened? He did not just get married to Lydia, because then if you're not seeing what happens, then you don't know. There's this whole gap. Yeah. They're like, is that how it ends?
Yeah, and I just can't bring myself to do it. So yeah, that's why I'm hoping that since Hamilton did really well on Disney Plus, I'm like, okay, can we bring out more of these?
Mm-hmm.
Please?
I agree. We need more pro shots.
Yeah.
Especially of shows that, like I heard Mean Girls just closed on Broadway as well. So, and I was fortunate to see that too. I managed to fit in that show 2 days after Beetlejuice, and that's another one that I feel like deserves a pro shot as well. And because it's just, you have these shows out for a limited engagement. They're not all guaranteed to be around for very long.
Yeah.
And so why not preserve them? Otherwise, you're losing all of these shows that people will never have the chance to experience, especially in their original incarnation. Like with Beetlejuice, I couldn't believe my luck. I was able to see the show with pretty much the original cast, except that was right after Rob McClure left. to go star in Mrs. Doubtfire. And so they had another one of their Adams in there, and he was also fantastic. I mean, all their Adams are fantastic. But it was, otherwise I had Alex Brightman as Beetlejuice. I had Sophia Ann Caruso as Lydia. I had, Leslie Kritzer as Delia. It was the whole group. And I kept thinking, it was just like, man, unless you're here, you're not going to see this cast, and this is the cast that made it. So it's like, more pro shots, please.
Yeah. And it's like, I know some people know the argument here is, oh, well, if people watch that, then they're not going to come see the live shows. Well, right now, nobody can see live shows. So if you can like come up with a deal to like, give the actors and everything a cut, kind of like, residuals and stuff, then this could be helping a lot of people right now and saving theaters in the process. And on top of that, when you go see a show live, it's so different than seeing it on a movie. Even if it's a pro shot, because there's going to be you're going to see a different cast, you're going to see different stuff. There's so many differences that I think it really makes that worth it, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. And again, like what we were talking about, the show is being different every time you go to see it. And even in shows like as finely tuned as Hamilton, anything can happen. So it's like, and it's something else to be there to experience it. So of course there's always going to be that desire to go see it live and experience it, because that's what it is. It's an experience and it's an escape. And if anything, pro shots are there to just make you aware of the show and help you grow an appreciation of it. And that's why so many people went to bootlegs and slime tutorials on YouTube to go watch shows that they would never be able to watch, because there were people who are like, who knows if I'll ever be able to watch Beetlejuice? So they're watching slime tutorials, or maybe Wicked will never come as a production to their country, so they'll watch slime tutorials of Wicked. And so, but they love it, and they are still generating revenue because they'll still probably go buy the album, they'll go buy merchandise and stuff. They just won't be able to go see the show. And so, no matter what, there's a market, and then
absolutely. And then even then, like, when these film versions come out and the people who don't have all the access funds to spend $150 to go see a Broadway show, they can go see a movie cut for like 20 or like 15, 20 or something. Or even if they made like a Netflix type subscription service, but just for pro shots, I think there'd be a market for that.
In a way, it kind of does exist. It's Broadway.com. I think it's Broadway.com. Let me pull it up. I think it's Broadway.com. Oh, Broadway HD. And,
okay. Well,
and so they do have a bunch of pro shots of shows on their service. And I remember they kind of popped up. I believe they popped up not long after COVID hit. And it's because they were trying to encourage, because of the theater shutdown, that they were trying to start up this whole thing to get people to watch shows and keep people watching theater shows. And what I could see them doing is hopefully turning into an exclusive kind of an exclusive kind of service to be able to have maybe even certain pro shots, because people will go do it. They'll go pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, maybe this thing we've been talking about forever, it's already a thing, so I don't know what I'm sitting here complaining for.
No, you guys are just, like, generally vibing, and I'm just kind of chilling. So I'm glad you guys are vibing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we took over the animation podcast with musical theater.
I mean, it's still kind of
it's usually what
together,
happens.
so
Don't worry about it. It's I guess what we could do to neatly wrap it up, I guess, is what advice do you have for anybody who wants to be able to be a voice actor, or maybe even use their vocal talents for online projects or even their own YouTube channels? What advice do you have?
For any voice actor out there who wants to try to get into this business, really, is just don't be afraid to try. I hear so many people that just keep telling me that, they want to go try this, but they're afraid of this, they're afraid of that, they're afraid of all these other things. And like I mentioned in my story, I had no intention of trying because I was too scared to think that I wasn't good enough. And here's the deal. You'll never know unless you try. You may try and it may not work, but you could try and it might work swimmingly, or it might work a little bit, but you still have some work to go. No matter what the outcome is, there's no shame in that, but the only shame there is in not trying at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I say is give yourself a shot. Give yourself a break to do it.
Don't throw away your shot.
Yeah. I'm not throwing away my shot.
Couldn't resist.
That was good. I didn't even catch that. That was good.
But yeah, totally solid advice. Especially because, there's so many people that they'll downplay their talents, or they don't even realize they have these talents, and they don't know how to, maybe they don't know how to foster their own talents. And so it takes a little, maybe it takes a little encouragement from friends or family,
sure.
or, but otherwise it's sometimes looking inside yourself and seeing if you can do it, if that's something you really love to do, then it's like, why not give it a shot?
Yeah, and then even like I mentioned before with me in animation, I always thought I wanted to go down that route, and if I'd never tried it, I'd always be sitting there questioning, should I have done it? But I tried it. I gave myself that shot. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me, but I never would have known unless I tried. So, whether you try it and it works, or you try it and I don't like using the word fail, because even whenever you fail, you still succeed.
Mm-hmm.
You just succeed in knowing what you fail at.
Yeah.
And that's great. It teaches you, teaches you to pick yourself up and keep going. Walt Disney always said that it's great for people to have failures, especially when you're young, because it teaches you, how to succeed later on.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let failure be seen as a bad thing. Let it be seen as just a stepping stone towards something greater.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's a nice note. Okay, Brian, where can people find you on the social media if they would like to stalk you in a socially appropriate way?
You can come check me out on youtube.com/Brian Hall Voices. I have tons of videos there, and if you don't want to see me there, still go to that. So go to that, and in the description, you can find links to all my other social medias, my TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. This was fun. I'm glad you and Lauren vibed. She knows more about theme park culture than I do, because I was not very close to a theme park, and then I moved, and I'm like, oh wow, I can get Minnie Mouse ears and use them more than once. Yay! So she kind of grew up in LA, so she knows the landscape, I guess.
Well, I'm in your boat. Growing up in Texas, we had Six Flags, and that was it.
Yeah, Six Flags is kind of shady sometimes too. So
yeah, luckily I was at the first one that was ever built, so it was the least shady out of all of them. So ours was nice, but at the same time, I feel like I'm making up for lost time. So I'd go to Disneyland 40 to 50 times a year. So I feel like I grew up there even though I didn't, because people are like, oh, remember this ride? I'm like, no. I don't.
I'll take I believe you. Yeah, but I guess really using that annual pass there.
Used it while I could, and let's see what the new thing is they come up with now, because that's gone.
Womp womp. All right.
Yeah.
I think we're good. So if you like what you heard on the podcast, if you're new for some reason, this is we're almost at 50 at this point. So we're on the social media at the KP Podcast, and then my main channel is I Love Composable. Again, if you don't know that, shrug. I don't know how to help you. There you go. And we release episodes every Wednesdays for the most part. So they're on SoundCloud first at 6 a.m. and the YouTube versions go up at 4 p.m. So in case you have a preference. Okay, that's my only plug. Do you have any other? One more plug is before I forget is we have apps for Treasure Planet Reanimated now open. So if you can animate, then check that out. And they'll be open for another week or so, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess also one more little plug. It's kind of sort of outside, but it is relevant to us because one of our former guests, Chi-Chi, she made a loop on the third rap, which I got to do the thumbnail art for, and it's up on YouTube now as well. So go check out her channel, go back a few episodes, find Chi-Chi, I guess, and go support her. Go support her music because that just went up over the weekend. So there's that.
Yeah, it's doing pretty okay-ish too. All right.
Yeah.
I think we can stop recording.
And good night, everybody.
Yep, see you next time, or in the past, or whatever.
In the future, past, present, future.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Communication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider. We are really hoping this show makes a difference in how people view animation and media, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like or want to join the animation or media industry. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and rate those 5 stars, as well as tell your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our main YouTube channel, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, and turn those notifications on. My name is Scribbler, and you have been listening to Animation Kimmunication.